the system design interview. Just hearing those words can be kind of terrifying, right? Especially if you're a front-end dev. Well, what if I told you it doesn't have to be? In this explainer, we're going to give you a solid framework to turn that fear into some real confidence. Let's get into it. So, does this sound familiar? If it does, hey, you are definitely not alone. This is probably one of the biggest anxieties for front-end engineers out there. But the good news is, it's a hurdle we can absolutely get over. Together.
You know, a lot of people think this. Wait a minute. System feels like a back-end thing, and design, well, isn't that for a UI UX designer? It's a super common misconception. But today, we're going to flip that on its head and show you exactly why this is a crucial skill for your toolkit.
Okay, so let's start by just calling it what it is. The fear is real. And let's talk about why it can feel so intimidating, especially when your whole world is about building beautiful, responsive, and slick user interfaces. Because, the truth is, those clean lines we used to have between front-end, back-end, and design, they're getting super blurry. To be a really great front-end developer today, you kind of need to understand the whole picture. Knowing what's happening under the hood doesn't just make you easier to work with, it actually helps you build smarter, more scalable solutions right from the start. All right, so before we go any further, let's just pause for a second and demystify this whole thing. When we say system design, what are we actually talking about? Okay, that sounds a little academic, right? Let's break it down. In simple terms, it's really just about creating the blueprint for an entire application before your team writes a single line of code. It's all about figuring out the how before you actually build the what.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Think of high-level design as the architect's blueprint for the entire building. Low-level design, on the other hand, is the detailed plan for just one single room, like, say, designing a really complex search component. And here's the kicker. As a front-end developer, you are already an expert in low-level design. You literally do this every single day.
All right, now for the part you've been waiting for, the core of this whole explainer. A practical, step-by-step framework you can walk into any system design interview with.
This is your game plan. Instead of panicking, you start the conversation right here at step 1, requirements. You ask questions, then you define the scope, you talk about the tech, you design the component architecture, which is totally your comfort zone, and then you can dive into the implementation details. Following this path shows the interviewer that you're a structured, methodical thinker, not just someone who wings it.
Okay, so to make that framework really work for you, you're going to need a few tools in your toolkit. And look, you don't need to become a back-end wizard overnight, but just knowing these core concepts, it's going to let you navigate that conversation with total confidence. One of the very first and biggest decisions you have to make for any system is, how are we going to store our data? And that choice, usually between a SQL and a NoSQL database, has these huge ripple effects on everything else. Performance, structure, you name it. So this choice between SQL and NoSQL, it really all boils down to trade-offs. Think of SQL as rigid, structured, and super reliable. It's perfect for things like user profiles, where data integrity is absolutely key. NoSQL, on the other hand, is all about flexibility and massive scale. It's great for things like product catalogs or analytics data. And for you as the front-end dev, why does this matter? Well, this choice directly impacts the API you're going to be hitting, how you query for data, and how that data is going to look when it comes back. All right, so beyond databases, there are a few other key players you should know. Caching, with something like Redis, is like having a little stash of your most popular data right near the front for super fast access. CDNs store your images and videos on servers all over the globe, so they load lightning fast for everyone. And message queues, like Kafka, well, the pizza shop analogy is perfect here. It's like the ticket line in a busy kitchen. It makes sure orders don't get lost and the whole system doesn't get backed up. And finally, let's talk about architectural patterns. These are like the big picture blueprints for how you put all those pieces together. You've got the classic client-server model. That's what most of the web is built on. Then you have microservices, which is like breaking a giant app into a bunch of tiny independent services that all talk to each other. And then there's event-driven architecture, which is all about building a system that reacts to things as they happen, kind of like a stock trading platform reacting to price changes in real time. Okay, so all this theory is great, but what does it actually look like in a real interview? Let's check out an experience that one developer shared online. So check out what this developer realized. The interview wasn't some scary quiz full of back-end jargon. Nope. It was a conversation, a practical, problem-solving chat about, hey, how do we connect the front end to the back end to actually solve this business problem? It was collaborative. And that right there, that is the single most important thing to remember. It is not about getting the one right answer. It's about showing them how you think. They want to see you ask smart questions, weigh the pros and cons, and break down a big, messy problem into smaller, manageable pieces. They're hiring a thoughtful engineer, not a walking textbook. So let's end with a little challenge for you. You're in the interview and they say, design a My List feature for Netflix. Before today, that might have sent a shiver down your spine. But now, you know exactly where to start. You don't panic. You start with step 1, requirements. You start asking questions. You now have the 5-step framework to turn a terrifying question into a productive design discussion that you can lead. And that's how you go from fear to framework.